So welcome to the Self-Healing Circle. And today we thought we're going to talk about limiting beliefs, because limiting beliefs are something that really can hold us back in life. Yeah. So I thought we should start with, what are limiting beliefs?
Well, I think limiting beliefs is something that stops us from actually achieving the thing that we want to achieve. Yeah. So there's a lot of fear and there's a lot of doubt within, yourself when you want to achieve, a thing. Yeah. I think that's pretty much the crux of what it is. But then we delve
much deeper
into that.
Yeah, that's almost like the main thing that shows up in our lives, but then the actual, like I said, the limiting belief has got such a deeper core to it. So, limiting beliefs are generally programs we've installed and belief systems we've installed about ourselves and the world that often are programmed in us in those really early years of life. So particularly up until the age of 7, we're downloading the world, we're creating how our lens of how we perceive the world and filter reality. And this is where some of those really early childhood experiences, especially like if parents were not coping emotionally themselves or had their own traumas. So when, a parent says things to us when we're young and really vulnerable, like, oh, why can't you ever do anything good enough? Or like some of those things that those words or teachers that have put us down, we then at those young ages absorb that as our own belief system about ourselves. So we then get programmed with all these limiting ways of seeing ourselves, of feeling good enough. And
it's such a negative emotion when you look at those limiting beliefs. When you start to having fear in your body, it's the fear that you go into that flight mode. Like, you can really feel the sense of, and it takes you back to that moment of that, memory. And that memory is such a negative emotion and it's so strong that somehow subconsciously you bring it into the future with you. Yeah. And we kind of go, why do I feel this emotion of such this negative, emotion? And fear is a big one for most people. Doubt. So for me, there's an example of, doubt is, look, you've got too much, it's not too much fat. You're too skinny.
Oh, yeah, the body image.
Yeah, the body image, the shaming. And that's a cultural thing as well. It's all about looking good on the outside and presenting yourself on the outside. So in turn, you've got that doubt about yourself, thinking, oh, maybe I should put some more weight on, because then you start finding ways to counteract, oh, maybe I should eat more.
Yeah. Because you're trying to please your caregivers. You want them to...
Yeah, and you're a child. So you think, oh, well, what's the opposite of skinny? Well, I just need to put some more meat on me. Maybe I should, eat some more. And this program that you think about in the back of your head is like, I need to eat more, I need to eat more. And then you develop these patterns of eating more to then suddenly go, oh, am I pleasing the person that said that I was too skinny? Yeah. And in the end, you're the one that's just damaging yourself. Yeah. And I was damaging myself.
So disconnected to your own needs and what your own body wants and what feels right for you, because you've just got no connection to yourself. It's more about...
Exactly. Yeah. And then you start doubting yourself. The doubt kicks in. The doubt of, oh, do I need to be skinny or do I need to be bigger? I don't know. Yeah. Why am I eating so much? I don't know. And you just fall into this heap of, I actually don't know where I'm at anymore. You become overwhelmed. And then again, another negative emotion comes into play, being overwhelmed. And it's just that layer upon another layer upon another layer, and you think you're doing all the right things.
Yeah, yeah.
And what's one of your, biggest negative, emotions that comes with the limiting belief?
Yeah. So some of the ones I've identified that have carried forward into adulthood, definitely people pleasing, like yourself, trying to be a good girl. So I would always, if I felt like I was doing something wrong or upsetting someone, or if someone didn't like me, it was like, that I'm feeling rejected and I'm not feeling loved and I'm not feeling safe. So my attention, like yourself, was always externally looking for the people around me to validate me and tell me I'm good and reassure me, versus me just expressing myself. Probably a lot of mine was like in expressing my needs, or I was very like shied away from confrontation, like standing up for myself, because it was so much about submitting and pleasing and keeping everyone happy that I then didn't even know who I was and what I wanted. And crazy, because then as soon as one person had a judgment about me, someone that wasn't even an important person in my life, or that would devastate me. Like it would create a lot of anxiety, a lot of overthinking, and I just never really understood, why am I getting so affected by what other people think of me? And then the doubt, like even doing things like what we're doing, like sharing our voices and sharing our learnings. Like I was always so fearful that, like, what if people judge me, and like what if people criticize me? And so
you know what, I'm going to be honest, I still feel that.
Me too.
I still feel like I think, look, I think it's more we judge ourselves now more so. And look, you know, I'm still working through it. You know, it's getting better and better at picking it up and recognising it and being aware of that niggling little bit of doubt or that little bit of judgment we have about ourselves, and you're going to go, oh, you're just going to have to say, shut I can't, really. Don't you?
The limiting belief comes with a lot of mental chatter, and we're so unconscious to that chatter, but you generally will know a limiting belief is running in the background if you're feeling a negative emotion. I feel like that's the strong alarm bell to tell you that there is something, your thinking is out of alignment, you're thinking something negative or thinking the worst or survival thinking. And then layers behind that is that there's some core wounded emotion there as well. So like you, this was a little bit scary doing this, and this was us facing one of those fears, because there was obviously that doubt in ourselves and that fear of putting ourselves out there. And then, but we pushed through. You know, there has been times where we've retracted and maybe like not followed through with things, you know, in different areas of our life, because that's almost like our subconscious mind saying, hey, let's stay safe. Let's not put ourselves in new territory or in the unknown. Don't put yourself out there because you could get hurt, because we're, like you said, it's like a trauma lens, like because we've had pain around expressing ourselves. Maybe as a child, you said, these are my needs, or I don't really want to do that, or I don't want to eat the rest of that food. And then we get put down or we get in trouble. So then we've then carried that forward into adulthood, and we're not responding to what's happening. We're still a child, sort of anticipating that if I put myself out there or if I express myself, I might get shut down. So then I think the bodily emotional response is to contract and withdraw, because it's like it's safer to not go into the unfamiliar if we're not sure it's safe. And that's why so often people don't follow through with things. They don't reach their potential. They don't.
And it can also come across as you being shy. I used to always use the term, I'm always shy, or I didn't like doing, or I didn't want to participate because I was shy. And, you know, it's not necessarily that. And like, you know, when you do go that deeper level, it's actually more of the fact that we're so scared of going out there and facing it. You know,
the potentials
of the fear of judgment and feeling that pain.
And then you could go the other extreme, because I was thinking about this actually. So myself, I moved around a lot in my teenage years. So I went to 4 different high schools in 3 different states. So I packed my bags and had to start like fresh a lot. And it is hard. Like once you're a teenager, you go into a new high school, you have to establish a new friendship group when people have already established friendship groups. And because I had such a need to fit in, I then went the other way, where whenever I started a new school, I just had this like mentality of like, I don't care what anyone thinks of me. I don't even care. I've just got to get through this. It was almost like this cold, numb, switched off. So then you go the other extreme of like having cared so much what people think, to then like actually being really numb and withdrawn and then going like, I don't care, like almost having this tough exterior, and that became like a coping mechanism that overcompensated. But in the end, that's really unhealthy too.
Yeah,
So.
look, I just became the shadows of everyone else, and I was hiding behind people. So those who had stronger personalities, so I can totally relate there because, you know, travelling with mum and dad from interstate, from, you know, New South Wales and then into Adelaide, for me, it was being in the shadows of the stronger personality, and then almost I start to adapt the person's stronger personality so that I could feel confident within myself. So then I started mirroring the people that I wanted to be. And now I realise that that's a great attribute to have, to be able to mirror someone who is, you know,
build rapport,
someone who is, you know, you look up to now, like you can, like Tony Robbins. I'd love to be able to speak like him, and you know, Oprah,
all the modelling,
and
excellence,
modelling all the excellence personalities out there, and I would, you know, and that's something that you can have a positive effect as well when it comes to all of those.
You can kind of go both ways, because I definitely was an adapter too, and I think it was a survival mechanism. It's like being in different environments, you had to adapt quickly. But then at the same time, I think for me, I actually lost myself in that, because I was just like shape-shifting. Like if everyone's partying and taking drugs, it's like, all right, we're partying and taking drugs. Like I just want to fit in. Like I just need to be accepted. So I didn't even know what my value system was. You know, that's obviously like teenage, you know, 20s, which I think everyone
and you know, I went into the drinking because I thought, you know, you go into a nightclub and everyone's drinking.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to drink. I didn't fit in. No, and this is go in thinking, well, this is how it's, and I didn't even like the taste of alcohol.
Is that funny?
Isn't it?
Still push through, because the need to be accepted and loved, and that just goes to show how strong a human drive that is, that we have to be so careful. Because as an infant, your survival was dependent on your caregiver loving you and caring for you. So we then still behave that way as adults, thinking like everyone needs to accept me, like as if I need that for my survival. But we don't need that anymore, and we don't need everybody to like us. And I think that's when we're becoming adults and finding who we are, finding our voices, what's in alignment with us, that's not going to mesh with everyone. And the reality is not everyone's going to like you, and that we have to be okay with who we are. You know, everyone's experiencing a different version of us. It's through their own lens. So no one's ever not liking us or judging us. They're experiencing us through their own, you know, filtering system. So we then also have to come back to ourselves and realise they're not judging us, they're just judging a version of us that they're experiencing based on their own conditioning and programming. So it's never personal. And
so when, you know, we all have these programs, you know, that have been downloaded in such an early age, because from 0 to 7, that's when we download and install pretty much everything that was conscious at that time, or subconsciously, should I say, subconsciously at 7. We start to only remember what those memories are, but through our adult life, we carry exactly what you just said. I'm just kind of making it an understanding of what that lens is, because when I talk about lens, when I first heard that, I didn't know what that was. And it's the installation of our upbringing, isn't it?
Our filtering system,
And it's like a computer downloading all this data at such an early age. And, you know, and I just wanted to make that clear.
Project that onto reality. Reality isn't as it is, it's as we are.
Because, like, look, I know as myself, I know I'm coming into this very later on in life, and I know you've had a very early start to the self-healing and that with your caregivers. For me, it was much later. So for the audience, I know that there are some people probably well and truly where you are at, Michelle, but I feel like
there's the beginner minds as well.
When there's some new words, terminology that's being used in here, and I just want to clarify that with the audience, because sometimes I kind of go, oh, wow, there's new words that I don't actually quite understand. What does it actually mean?
All these big concepts.
So limiting belief was also something that I didn't understand.
Yeah.
And that was not knowing what a limiting belief was. And it was only, like I said, now I realise what that actually is.
Yeah.
And the early installation is the thing that's going to keep creeping up and showing up, because it's a pattern, a looping system in our brain, just like anything. It just keeps playing over and over. That keeps creating some of these habits. Yeah. And some of these habits can be, self-sabotaging for when you actually want to achieve something in life, whether it's a great relationship, whether it's, a job, a position that you want to pursue but you can't because, you're not being able to voice yourself because you're either too shy and too reserved. You don't have the courage to step forward and push through some of these challenges, or, this scary brick wall that we've put ourselves or put in front of us that's invisible. Yeah. No one can see it, but we put it there. Yeah. Because that's the thing that's stopping us. So what are some of the things that we could do, for anyone that's probably listening, is that what could we do to, one, identify what that is for them, and what are some of the really easiest ways to
unpack it and start to heal it.
And heal that part.
Yeah. Well, some of the strategies I've used, I always find tuning into my emotional state is number one because limiting beliefs are so sneaky and so hidden and so unconscious. Like you said, you just said you were shy and you believed that, but really, as you created more awareness, you realize, no, that was my kind of cop-out maybe, or my cover-up to keep me safe, to not take action or to pursue those things that were a little bit scary. So that's why some people don't even think they have limiting beliefs, they might be so unaware. But what I think is a really good place to start is sort of take inventory, of your day, just review your week, review your day, and just sort of check in and ask yourself, have I felt any really strong negative emotions? So you might even journal at the end of the day, or just when it is one of those things, you need a bit of self-reflection time, you need a bit of downtime, I think, to really tune in. So once you identify some strong negative emotions, so if you're feeling really anxious quite often, and that's a big one, heaps of people are anxious, heaps of people are stressed, heaps of people are getting depressed, we know mental health is massive at the moment. Yeah. So same for myself, I might feel really anxious and I'm like, all right, where's my thinking right now? Then I sort of tune, and you might be aware of the dialogue anyways. It might be like, oh, I think I upset this person, or I think, this person doesn't like me, or, look, sometimes it's just really superficial stuff. But it can really destabilize us emotionally.
And could you say anxious can be also on a positive thing? For instance, you might be going for a job interview and you're feeling a little bit anxious, but could that also mean a little bit of excitement because it's something new?
Yeah, and look, you can definitely flip it in your mind, that's for sure. Going on a roller coaster ride, you're voluntarily doing that because you want to get a thrill. Yeah. But I guess the anxiety I'm talking about is probably that your stress state, that worry going into the future, and just feeling unsettled. And maybe there's an emotion underneath. That anxiety might just be what you're really feeling, but underneath that is fear maybe, because often anxiety and fear might go together. Yeah. So then we're going to take a bit of inventory. All right, where is my thinking right now? Let's just tune into this mental chatter that's happening. It's overthinking maybe something that's some interaction with a person or with your partner, some disagreement. You just thinking about it, and then so you want to tune into that mental dialogue, and then you want to sort of ask yourself, what would I have to believe is true for me to think this and feel this emotion? So if I'm worrying about maybe a disagreement with a friend, say just a complete example, I'm feeling really anxious and uneasy, then I'm tuning into my mental chatter. It's I think she got offended. Maybe maybe she took this the wrong way. I'm overthinking it. And then it's okay, well, what would I have to believe is true about me and this situation for me to feel this way? Then I might tune into, okay, I'd have to believe that I've done something wrong. I'm a bad person. I wasn't caring enough in that situation, or that might be maybe some of the beliefs. Could be they're sort of surface level beliefs.
And then you can go another level and ask yourself, okay, why am I not why am I feeling this way about not caring enough?
Yeah. And it might be that I feel like not a good person, or it could even be like I feel rejected by this person because they're withdrawing from me. Yeah. Maybe it's hit a core limiting belief of like, I'm feeling rejected, like this person.
When did you feel rejected? You go even further again.
Yeah, you could. Yeah. I like to then just kind of just access that deeper core emotion. So say like the surface emotion was anxiety, then we found the dialogue, then we found the core wounded, kind of the inner child that actually has a core wound around feeling rejected. So her defense mechanism would be to feel anxious or to get angry and that. So once we sort of find that really core emotion, we want to sort of self-parent ourselves. There was a time when that child needed that love and attention, but I'm an adult now and I can give that to myself. I don't need someone else to make me feel accepted. I now can take my power back and I can sit with that emotion. I can talk to that emotion. I can say, hey, I've got you. You're safe. I love you. I accept you.
How amazing.
I give you unconditional love. You can stay here as long as you want. I can breathe all my love into it. And once it's seen and heard and felt, it kind of like then dissolves back and neutralizes, and then you kind of come back to this beautiful like balanced state.
Well, you know, I wish I had that growing up in my teenage years, right through my 20s, and all the different relationships and boyfriends I had.
Yeah, that's
because
a lot of pain.
You know what? You just pretty much hit the nail on the head for me, because I think I really needed a lot of validation in my relationships, and I needed to be validated to say that I was loved and, you know, I was cared for, and that they, you know, and now I'm very confident in myself to know that I don't really, I just needed to love myself and understand and heal that inner child of me, because my parents were working all the time. You know, when you get down to the core of it, you kind of realise that, well, my parents, you know, just came back from a war and they just kind of like need to work in order to keep the family alive and surviving here in Australia. So now, because I've understood that, it's like, of course my parents love me. And you just doing the best they could, and now it's kind of like, oh, well, what have I got to worry about now? Yeah. It's like, well, then now it's just, you know, stacking on that self-love again and feeling that love. But beautiful. I wish I had you by my side. I am still going through that.
I've still got to do the work. I still get triggered. Yeah. You know, like I heard a little judgment about me the other day, and you know that sends a little trigger. Like it's still there. Like it's these programs are strong. So but what I will say is when you do the work, you come back to balance a lot quicker. And you don't shy, like you get to a place where you embrace the trigger. You're like, yes, show me where my wounds are, because I want to heal. I want to return to wholeness. I want to return to myself and be the source of my love and acceptance. I don't want to keep seeking it from the world, because that's not reliable. It's not stable. The only person that's going to be with me to the day I take my last breath is myself. I need to come home to me. So I want to see all the fragmented parts of me that are still seeking outside of herself. So, and we can only see that by getting triggered. Like you can't be like bubble wrapped.
No, and
that stuff's in there.
Yeah, no, and it's good to just keep recognizing that, you know, as you keep moving through it, it does get better, and it just eases off, doesn't it? And you just kind of go,
step back quicker.
Yeah, and you just kind of look at it and go, oh, you can actually have a laugh about it.
Yeah, and you're capable to feel big stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the other thing with doing that self-parenting and really like moving into that emotional state, like being with that emotional state, breathing into it, like allowing it to be, is so important. Because if you're resisting it, if you're fighting it, if you're trying to think positively, you're just bypassing and not actually honouring what is there and wants to be felt. Yeah. And that's really the only place that you can heal your emotions. You have to go through them. You can't.
You know, I find that I think it's just like a penny drop for me. It's kind of like when you're eating and you're filling your belly up and you just keep eating, you don't even know when you're actually hungry because you're always just eating for the sake of
It's
eating.
like a form of escapism, isn't it? It's like I'm using this to give me some stimulation, but rather than being with what's here.
And then feeling the hunger.
Yeah.
You know, how does your body feel hungry? Like I remember not feeling hungry. So I mean, that's just an example for anyone who's trying to work.
Metaphor. Yeah. Oh, well, I really hope that's helpful because, limiting beliefs, we could just keep going on about it because for us, I would assume you as well, like identifying limiting beliefs, creating that level of awareness has been so empowering because the triggers still happen, but you're aware of it and you realize like it's not the circumstance so much, it's something internal. So I'm going back inward rather than giving my power outward. And it's a continual process. It's an unraveling. It's a peeling the onion layers back. But hopefully that was helpful just to at least get you started on your journey of, identifying, some of your blocks and deeper conditioning.
Yep. Well, I think that's it for this episode. And we'll see you at the next one. Thanks for tuning in.